Welcome back, everyone, to How I See, a Leica podcast. I'm here today with renowned photographer Mark Mann. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. So excited to have you on board and be able to chat with you a little bit about your photography and your journey to becoming a photographer.
I'm humbled, always humbled by these things.
Well, I'm excited to chat and learn more about you. I know I've known a little bit, but I'm looking to get a little bit deeper in the onion here.
Okay.
So I think the best place to start is what sparked your interest in photography at the beginning? What made you want to follow this path?
I, as a kid, was an amateur magician, right? And my dad was an amateur magician. And there was something about magic that I just loved, whether I was performing it or whether I was watching it. But there was something incredible about, first of all, as a kid, to have like power over adults by doing something that they didn't know how you were doing it. So that was what I was really into as a kid. And then I kind of was going to go to university to study something. I wasn't particularly book smart, but I did reasonable at school, and I wanted to go to university to study something. And I was on a train going to meet some friends in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Festival. I was probably 16-ish. And I get on the train. It's pretty quiet. It's early in the morning. And there's this absolutely beautiful older woman who must have been 18 or 19. She was sitting on a 4-up. I thought, I'm just going to go sit opposite her and say hello. You know, ballsy, like little spotty 16-year-old. So I went over there and I sat down opposite her and I said hi, and she looked at me like I was crazy. But anyway, we started talking, and I asked her what she did or what she was doing. She told me she was studying photography at Manchester Polytechnic. I was like, whoa, photography, studying it, cool. Went to the festival, came home, got back to high school. The next morning, I said to my high school teacher, art teacher, a guy called Davy Marshall. I said, Mr. Marshall at that point, Mr. Marshall, do we have photography? He goes, yeah, why? I said, because I want to do it. So he says, well, we've got a darkroom, and he takes me into the darkroom, and we don't have any negatives, right? So he puts down my glasses and I think his car keys and some stuff, and, you know, mixes up some developer, and like shines this light down and exposes this piece of paper like Man Ray style, and he puts it in the developer. And then I saw what I thought was magic for the first time for real. This was like chemical magic. This was just blew my mind. So I went home and asked my dad if we had a camera, and he had some, I think, 35mm compact Canon camera. And that was the start. And I went to Manchester Polytechnic to study photography, and no romantic interlude with this young lady, but we stayed friends for a very long time. So that's really how it started. Girl on a train.
Girl on a train.
Girl on a train.
That's incredible. Now, when you started out, what were you photographing mostly?
Oh, anything. Yeah. I think you go through this. I think once again, it really helps because, you know, back then, you know, nobody had cameras, or if you had a camera, you were different than everybody else. So it was this other thing about kind of having this kind of, it's not an ego power, it's just having this thing where you don't have to be cool, but you're cool because you've got something going on that nobody else does. So I'd always be the guy with the camera, you know, like parties and stuff, and it was fun. And I don't know, you know, it's hard to think back, but I don't know if it was I really loved the photos or I just loved being the guy with the camera. And today, I don't know if it's about the photos or I just love being the guy with the camera, because I know I love being the guy with the camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I like being the guy with the camera.
And you're so well known for your portraiture. Is kind of having the camera at those parties, is that where you started to develop the interest in portraiture?
I think it must have been, because I never really photographed anything else. I didn't like photography as like a lone sport, right? I mean, I didn't like assignments where we went out to photograph landscapes, and, you know, some people just got so off on it, like, being out in the wild and waiting 4 hours for the sun. I was just so I never was interested in landscapes or stuff that you did by yourself. When I photo assisted, which I did for a long time, I did enjoy still life because, first of all, it's a team. So, whatever, you're assisting like some master, or I was fortunate enough to assist some really masterful still life photographers, and you learn about light. But it was a team thing that I kind of really dug. I never liked it as a lone thing. And I think I just used to like photographing my friends. I used to like, I mean, I still do. I like faces. I've always liked faces. And, sometimes even being a portrait photographer gives you this opportunity to stare into somebody's face in a way that, you can't do without a camera. And you're thinking, wow, man, his eyes, wow. One eye's a wee bit lower than the other there. What's going on over there? And how does his nose do that weird tweaky thing with it? So I think it's like there's a little bit of voyeurism is in there. Safety from being behind a camera. And I think it just gravitated. I've never been good at taking photos of anything that aren't faces. I'm terrible, dreadful street photographer, dreadful, beyond stupid. I said to Penman the other day, Phil, I know you've had him on. I live in New York City. I walk a lot. I drive my bike a lot, and I never see anything. And you go out for like 5 minutes and you create. I just don't see it. And I've talked to Phil about it and a bit about the training that it takes to train your mind to see stuff. And I've tried and failed miserably. It's just not for me.
When you are going around on the street or spending your time in New York walking about, do you recognize any faces though, where it's like, somebody I'd love to take a portrait
100%.
of? Yeah.
100%. That is really what I'm looking at. Well, I'd love to photograph you, and what's strange, and I sometimes don't even have to take the photograph to have the experience I want. So I think even if I just go up and talk to somebody without a camera, I might just be as happy as if I'd taken their photo. It was just the communication, the thing. Photograph's a bonus. The difference in that situation is when I have a camera and you don't, or I'm asking you for something. So I give back in a way if I give you of myself and you're giving me of yourself. But I walk away with a picture of you. I've taken something. Whereas if I do it without a camera, it feels much more level. Like we talked, it was fun, and now goodbye. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I'm curious, was the camera maybe at the start just a way for you to connect with people more deeply, or?
No, I think the camera was just about being cool.
Being the guy with the camera.
Being the guy with the camera. I really, it's just funny you think about all this stuff. You don't, you give, as somebody who is like, most evenings considering why I'm not driving an Uber to make some extra cash, you don't often give yourself this time to think, oh, no, I'm a photographer. It's just like, what am I doing tomorrow to feed my family, right? So you don't often get a lot of chance to kind of think back on how you did things, the process. I mean, what's a process? What's your process, Mark? I have no idea what my process is. I mean, take the camera. No, I think that as soon as you start spending too much time thinking about what you're doing, you forget what you're doing. Like, it's like if I say to you, hey, Jack, tell me your process of getting dressed in the morning. You go to the drawer, you take the socks out. I go, well, and when you take the socks out, do you put the right one on first? It doesn't matter, man. You just put the socks on, take the camera out. And I know that's nonsense, because if you've been getting dressed every day for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, however old you are, that's how you feel about the process if you've never been asked about it, right? I know there is more to it, because I know that I've learned so much about doing this every day, but I haven't spent much time thinking about what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Okay,
It sounds
that's
like
2 out of 3 of them. Well, That's two that make sense.
Yeah,
I'll
you're on it.
confuse you for the next one.
I'm excited for that. You touched a little bit on your time at Manchester Polytechnic and studying there. I know following that you assisted some pretty renowned photographers in the fashion industry.
I did. It was very, very strange. I mean, being at photo school really was about drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, and talking about like new photographers that we'd kind of like, I got to come up with a name for tomorrow. Oh, I saw Curtis stuff last night. And when I was looking through Ajay's book, oh, who's he? You know, don't know how much I learned about photography in these years, but what I did have, and I think what I do have, I think something I recognize I have is an ability to communicate with people, to talk to people. And one of my one of my tutors was one of Nick Knight's tutors, and Nick would come up every year and, you know, do a lecture. And he came up and he lectured, and London people coming up, photographer, shoots for Yoji Yamamoto, no idea who that is, but should probably look him up. Naomi Campbell, you know. So after it finished, I just went up and said, hey, thank you for that, Mark. I'm from Scotland. That was really inspiring. I love fashion photography. I mean, I didn't love fashion.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Oh, well, nice to meet you, Mark. Whatever. A couple of weeks later, my tutor, Paul, says, Nick wants you to go do a work placement with him. So I went down to London, and all my friends lived in these like crappy bed sits and way north of London, and Nick's studio was way down in the south of London. And, you know, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get there in the morning. I'd be on set at 8. And then, you know, I know the last bus was at 9. And, you know, we might not be finished. And, oh my God, and I was like trying to get back. I didn't really enjoy the experience of like the London thing. I loved being with Nick. I loved what I was learning. Should I tell you a funny story?
Please.
So the first day I was there, Nick was shooting something in a studio in London, and he was cast. Oh, no, it was a job for a company called Dylon. And I don't know if you remember or anybody remembers, they made these little round dyes that you would dye clothes with. You'd put it in your washing machine and it would dye the clothes. And the concept for the ad was like, take your old underwear, your old gruddy, mostly for women, your old like, you know, like frayed grey underwear, and dye it a nice color, be fun again. Your underwear will be fun again. That was the concept for the second day. So my job, my first day on set as anything in photography, was all these models would come in. They would drop their jeans or whatever they were wearing and lift their shirt, and I just had to take a photo of them from belly button to just below the knee on Polaroids in whatever underwear they were wearing, because we were casting for the next day. Yeah. And I basically must have photographed 300 beautiful young models. That was my first day on set ever as anything to do with photography. And I think at that point I thought, you know what, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. But anyway, I worked for Nick for, I don't know, 10 days, 12 days, and then my placement was over. And I'll never forget this. I was sitting, I think he took for dinner, or we're having dinner or whatever. And he says, Mark, you know, you're brilliant, but you're far too nice a guy to be a photographer. Really? Like, oh. And that stayed with me for so long. It really stayed with me. But yeah, it was a great experience. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah. What do you think he meant by you're far too nice of a person to be a photographer?
I think I understand it now. Like, I think a lot of people that go very far in photography or... God, I don't want to say that. I think there's a lot of self-indulgence. There's a lot of ego. I mean, especially in fashion. Yeah. I don't think so much in portraiture or more what I do, but I worked for a lot of fashion photographers in New York, and there was certainly that attitude of, and maybe you had to believe or think that you had to treat people in a certain way, or this is the way you're expected to behave on set. And maybe it was something to do with that. but I could never do that. And maybe that's what he meant. I sent him a copy of a book that I did a couple of years ago called Movement at the Still Point, and I wrote him a little note saying, hey, whatever. And I said something like, I'm glad I didn't listen to you, and I became a photographer. And I mean, it's Nick Knight, I wasn't going to be a dick about it. And later in another conversation, he has no memory of telling me that.
Really?
And which makes me question if he actually, I don't know. It's just one of these little mysteries of life.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing experience. And then I got back to New York. I got back to Manchester, and I got another call. He was at that time, he was like guest photo editor for the Face magazine. And he started to give me some work for the Face magazine, and, I'm in my second year at college shooting stuff for the Face. And what's crazy is I had no idea what it meant.
Yeah.
Now when I look back, I was like, Christ, Mark, wasted opportunities. I can't explain it anymore. Like, I'm shooting for, oh God, I got to shoot this bloody magazine job, but I got a hot date.
Yeah.
I'm at college,
Yeah.
But listen, I didn't mess anything up. I think at that point it was more about being the guy with the camera than actually wanting to take photos.
Yeah.
Maybe still. Weird, right?
It is. It's interesting to see like the reflection that you have looking back now.
I think it is what it is. It's like I mean, still to this day, it's like, as I said, it's like if I have a brilliant experience with somebody and the photos aren't everything I hoped they'd be, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. It was more about the experience.
I'm okay with it. I mean, yeah.
So you spend a lot of time with fashion photographers and in that industry.
And that's when I knew I certainly never wanted to do. I think to be a really, really exceptional fashion photographer, or of all the exceptional fashion photographers that I know, you either have to be absolutely passionate about the clothes, love the clothes, understand the clothes, or passionate about the girls or the boys. Yeah. That type of human, which is at the levels that these guys are shooting, are just, human beings that are just not normal. I think you have to be passionate about that. And I was certainly not passionate about the clothes. I didn't understand the clothes. I still don't understand the clothes, even though I'm married to somebody who's been in fashion their whole life and desperately tries to teach me. And I found the models were fine. I mean, they were nice to talk to, but it wasn't where my passion was. I loved the assistant stylists and the makeup artists and the set builders, and the kind of like, that's who interested me more. I mean, faces, everything. So I knew that I didn't want to shoot fashion when I was assisting. I definitely knew that.
Do you think that when you were more drawn to the makeup artists, the set builders, was that also kind of a connection to magic, seeing something come from nothing and being built up?
I think you're pushing it there, Jack.
Yeah.
No, it could be. I think it was more about just the normal people.
Yeah.
The type of people that were always, that I saw beauty in them. I still do. I thought, that there was this unobtainable 6'2" Amazonian goddess, and I could appreciate her or him, god or goddess, for what they were. But the makeup artist who was kind of 5'3" and, just different and just like interesting and quirky in personality was, to me, much more interesting. Somebody to have a conversation with or B, to photograph. Yeah.
So as you moved out of fashion photography and
assisting fashion
photography, you moved to New York after that? Is that correct?
I was in New York already.
Okay. And then when did you start to make the move over into what you're more known for now, into that style of portraiture? Was that something that you developed throughout the years, or how did that come about?
Well, you take your left sock. No, it's a hard one. It's a hard one. I mean, I can tell you like specific examples of things that happened that made me, I'd been in New York about 8, 9 months. I was on set. Here's a thing which I don't know, we're going to sidetrack, but pull me back if I go on too long. So one thing that was really amazing about being a photo assistant in New York back 25 years ago was that there was all places that you had to go to do stuff. Like you would meet people at the rental houses, right? You'd go into the rental houses, you'd meet other photo assistants, but the lab was a real hangout spot because, if somebody was shooting chrome, like, go Mark, go get me and wait for the clip tests, and you go sit in the lab for like an hour and waiting with other photo assistants and you'd all talk and, oh, what are you guys doing at the weekend? It was like there was a real community around the photo assistants. I mean, listen, it wasn't all like bestie, maybe I'm glamorizing it, but there was a community. And where are we at? Why am I talking about this?
We are talking about how you got into portrait.
All right, so I was talking to a photo assistant, I think Color Edge one day, and he said there's a magazine called Manhattan File. It's looking for young photographers. You should go show them your portfolio.
Okay.
Actually, this is a bit later, but anyway, I did portfolio. Go down there. I meet this guy called David Curcarito.
Okay.
Now, David Curcarito has now, I mean, he was a Esquire for maybe 15 years, a legendary creative director, just a genius. But this was like him and I are of ages, so this was maybe his first job designing a magazine, and I go in there and we get on, and I'm Scottish, and he thinks I'm great and all that stuff, and he says, all right, you're going to go photograph Bret Easton Ellis for us. I'm like, oh, great, love Bret Easton Ellis. No idea who Bret Easton Ellis is at that point. And the internet wasn't a thing, so you're like, hey, who's Bret Easton? Just like Google searching that stuff. It's like, who's Bret Easton Ellis? So he's all right, oh, okay, yeah. I would go photograph him, and I did all these portraits of him sitting on the chair and all this stuff like that. And then I kind of just got tight like I did at a party, or I was like, hey, just, And that was the shot they ran. I did Jay McInerney for them. I did loads of portraits. And then I did a cover of Candace Bushnell, who wrote Sex and the City.
Oh, okay.
And what was crazy is, like, I wasn't good at fashion or, like, even, whatever. But anyway, she was lying on a bed and I photographed her slightly from above. I'll try and find it. Maybe we can show it somewhere. Yeah. And she was wearing, she was topless, but you could see her underwear, me in the underwear again. And it went to this guy called Pascal in the early days of photo retouching. I mean, early days of digital photo retouching. And they decided they were going to take her underwear off and have her naked on the cover of this magazine. And that happened, and that was like, I got a lot of attention because she had attention, and it was great. I mean, my photo was like terrible, but by the time Pascal had finished with it, it looked like a piece of art. And then my friend David Curcarito, who was kind of my friend, told me that he was gonna a new magazine called The Source, and it was a hip hop magazine. And did I like hip hop? And I'm like, yeah, I love hip hop. What's hip hop? Puffy, that kind of thing. So he went over there, and within a few months, I'm shooting hip hop, and that's where kind of that music thing and all the music stuff started. My first job for The Source was I was going to go photograph a lady called Mrs. Wallace, who I was told was Biggie Smalls' mum. Okay. And this is, am I blethering or is this good stuff?
I'm enjoying
is this all right?
Yeah.
I thought maybe we should be talking about f-stops.
No. This is not that kind of podcast.
No f-stops. They're stops. So I got out to New Jersey to photograph Mrs. Wallace, and it just happens to be on the year anniversary of Biggie's death. I gotta tell you, I don't know who Biggie is. I mean, I'm joking a bit, but I'd heard Biggie Smalls. I had no idea who he was. I mean, it was different. I was whatever. I was new to New York-ish. I go over there as amazing woman, Mrs. Wallace, Violetta Wallace. And I come in and she goes, I say, I'm here from The Source. And to photograph you. And she was not expecting, and she could obviously tell she was not expecting me.
Yeah.
You know, she knew something, but, you know, I was white and whatever. And we had this lovely chat and we had tea. We took these very pretty photos. And she, you know, once again, close up, and she told me all about Biggie.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Biggie was. And she says, actually, if you want to hang out, some of the crew coming over and we're going to raise a glass to Biggie tonight. Yeah, I'm not doing anything else, am I? So, like, before I know, like, Puffy's there, Foxy, I mean, you know, Birdman, I mean, like, everybody who was anybody in hip-hop came over, in New York, came over to Mrs. Wallace's that night to have, I just remember them all going, who the is this guy? I made a decision that I'd put my camera away. I didn't want to be that guy that night. And I just listened, and it was just an amazing, that was my introduction to hip-hop. And I did that for loads of years. I shot for The Source for years. I met my wife at The Source magazine.
Really?
Yeah. So then that happened, and then, you know, did a lot of music, and then music kind of like hip hop music. It began to be really repetitive and not creative. I suppose maybe what happened to hip hop after 10 years. I mean, I know it's developed and very different now, but at this point it was just like, this is just dull. Yeah. Everybody wants to be like sitting beside a car like Jay. And it's like everything, it was like the ideas were bad, the budgets. And then I started to do more portraits again. I don't know, just as needs must. I don't think it was a decision that, I'm going to be a portrait photographer. And then it just happens, right?
Just happened.
I think.
I feel like you have this incredible ability to connect with your subjects and break down walls. Was that something you always had, or was it something that you developed?
I don't think you always have. I think you always maybe have the ability, but with anything else, I'm certainly not any kind of savant or, you know, natural. I think with anything else, including photography, it comes from practice. I think it's practice. It's practice. You practice talking to people. Yeah. I think in a conversation where I'm sitting with you and I have a camera, I may be leading it in a certain way that is like, how can I get a picture? But I'll go into a grocery store and have a 15-minute conversation with a guy behind the counter because I'm practicing my craft. It's also enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know, TSA agents. I love TSA agents. Yeah. Man, because I'm going to make you smile. Because you've had the most miserable day today because everybody's been a complete ass to you, and I'm going to make you smile. And I'm doing it for a purpose. I mean, it's self-serving, but I can see that actually does bring a nice little thing. And, you know, my family despise me for it. It's like, Dad, stop talking to that guy. He's not interested. Oh, it's kind of funny. And now, even when I say that, it's like I think of I think my dad did this too. You know, my dad talked to anyone and everyone. I can remember, Dad, what are you talking to this guy for? So I kind of get it. I kind of bit back.
My dad's the same way. I had the same conversations with him. I remember at sporting events all the time. He would start a conversation with anyone. But has there been a conversation you've had either through photography or just in life that's been the most interesting for you?
Well, so many. I mean, every time I come home, I'm not sure, you know, what I'm coming home to. I don't mean that in a funny way. No, I so many, Jack. I couldn't, you know, I've got certain conversations that, everything that is really relevant is recent, right? And, you know, I was doing these corporate portraits a few weeks ago for a company, and everybody's got a half an hour slot. And this lady comes in and she sits down. She goes, "Oh, I really don't like having my photo taken." I was like, "Don't worry, it's going to be fun. We're going to make it fun." She goes, "Well, I haven't had a lot of fun recently." And she tells me this heartbreaking story. I'm not going to go into details. Heartbreaking story about her husband and a kid and whatever. Just heartbreaking. No, everybody's okay. Don't worry. It wasn't like that kind of heartbreaking. But husband was a knob. And she goes, "Yeah, this is the first time I've been out of the house in 6 months. And I don't know what it is with me that people just feel that they need to tell me this stuff." And it's a blessing and a curse because, you know, this woman is bawling, but I can see she really needs to get it out, right? And there you go, fucking portrait. The back of my head is like, yeah, really, this is interesting, and if this was a documentary, I'd be like jumping up and down, but I gotta make a corporate portrait. So these things are always interesting because, I definitely try and guide it to joy and happy and whatever, but sometimes it doesn't go that way, and you just, I think in the end it was like, she was like, oh, I feel so much better. I was like, great, go to the bathroom, fix your makeup, and now I'm going to make you laugh. And it actually worked, and we got some lovely portraits. But, it didn't have to go that way.
It's interesting how you can take somebody who's having like some of the worst moments and then turn them to joy.
I think so. And, it's to my detriment and to a lot of people's detriment around me. I have a pretty dark sense of humor. So, even in times where I say things that, and my filter sometimes is not great. And so I often say things in times that I shouldn't say because I can't handle it. And my way of not handling it is humor. Which, if you know me, you know me. But unfortunately, people just take it wrong sometimes to my dad. I have to. And also, it's what drives me nuts is I have to be so much more filtered than I used to be for the fear of offending people. And I understand that times change, but I'm a 58-year-old guy, man. Sometimes I'm not saying I don't care who you are, what you are, but sometimes with this labeling and pronouns and stuff, I get a bit confused and I get it wrong. I just hate it when people beat me up because of that. So if you knew what kind of effort I was making right now, you wouldn't be busting my balls over like that.
Yeah.
All right, come on, guys. We're not guys. Come on, people.
Yeah.
Are you people? So it's definitely been over the last decade being much more aware. And I think that sometimes that I suffer from it because I might think of something to say and then I double think it in case I'm going to offend somebody. I'm not talking about offensive. Yeah. I went into a flower shop the other day with my wife and my son, and the woman behind the counter. This isn't the other day, it's a little while ago. The most incredible green eyes. I mean, really stunning. The light in the flower shop, it was just lovely. And my thought was, I'm going to say, wow, you have the most incredible green eyes I've ever seen, because they were. And I didn't say it because I thought, what happens if she doesn't want to hear that? And I don't know. That sometimes I just feel like censoring myself. And I know that interaction could have maybe led to, as I say, I'm standing there with my wife. I mean, the girl's in her 20s, whatever. I'm not trying to be weird or anything. Could have led to, hey, if you ever want, I'd love to photograph your green eyes. I know it could have led to that. And I don't do it because of the fear of maybe offending people or being weird or being creepy.
It may have made her day too, depending on how her day was.
But I think I've been shut down for comments before, like, why are you commenting on my eyes? Well, I'm sorry. So I think, trying to find a balance of stuff.
Yeah. Do you find that slips into your work when you're trying to connect with people?
I think honestly, if you're sitting opposite me after a couple of minutes when I have my camera, I think you realize how ridiculous I am and are not going to get offended. Yeah. But I think off the bat, you might, so no, I think when I'm in that place, I'm very good at judging, where things are, and knowing when to pull it back or when to push it. And if somebody is even looks slightly uncomfortable, I'm not gonna, so I'm not interested.
Yeah.
What's the guy, Vincent D'Onofrio? Okay. Vincent D'Onofrio. He played Kingpin. He was on Law and Order for a long time. Yeah. Big guy. And he comes into the studio once and he says to me, I said, "Oh, Mr. D'Onofrio, such a pleasure. Have a seat when you're ready." Something like that. I went to shake his hand. He looks at me and he goes, "I'll have a seat when I'm ready to have a seat. Now, coffee, Irish something like that. I thought, whoa, I've never experienced this before. It's like really aggressive.
Yeah.
I thought, there's two ways I can go here. I can go, okay, or I can come back to him. I said, look, first of all, if I'm a Scottish, and second of all, if you can sit down, I'm not going to take your photograph like that right into his face, like you said to me, burst out laughing.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you got to understand that people are a lot of celebrities they're bored. They don't want to be there. So like, who are they going to mess with somebody?
Yeah. Try to get a kick.
Try and get, you know what I mean? It's fine. I mean, I do the same thing myself. So I think just trying to be a really good judge of, where that person's at. And not judge them because they're in a bad mood. I mean, I don't know if your kid's sick that day and you don't want to be there, or you've got a flight to catch. I don't know why. Just like, hey, we'll get it done and it'll be cool. And, I have a hard out in 5 minutes. Like 20 minutes later, you're still sitting there. You go, oh, how's your hard out? So I just said that in case I didn't. You know what I mean? So I think you just got to, play it by ear with people. And, practice is what allows you to make better decisions.
So for your style, you have this very distinctive look, and I think you had said sometimes the camera can be as close as 24 inches away, where you can smell the camera. How
did I know I said that once? Somebody said I said, I want to be able to smell the camera.
But I'm just curious, how did you get comfortable getting that close to your subject, or make them comfortable?
That came from actually, to be honest, from Leica. And it was something that it wasn't intentional in any real way. It was when I first was using the Leica S system. I had the 120 millimeter f. I don't even know what f was. It 2A or 2, whatever. And there was I'd never seen a lens that fell off as far. There is, but I'd never owned a lens that had that fall off wide open before. And I'd never seen anything like it, and it just blew my mind one day. And I realized that the only way to get something pin sharp on one eyeball and completely out of focus there was to be as close as the lens would go, as wide open as possible. And that happened to be about 24 inches. So that's really where that happened. It was, I suppose, in all honesty, and really like not messing around anymore, that was when one of the first times I started to really use the equipment to make what I wanted to get with what I did on top of it. Does that make sense? Is this like, I'd never really been interested before the S system in getting a look. And the S system was my first Leica as well. So it wasn't like I had Leicas before. And it was all of a sudden, wow, this tool, this particular camera, this particular lens, this particular f-stop, this particular sensor gives me something that consistently I'm loving. And I think that's where that closeness came from. And it's also, it's intimate.
Yeah.
It's intimate. I don't have to shout. I don't have to raise my voice. I like it. I like it. It's very comfortable for me. And I love it because when I get a little closer, you just see people back it up.
Start moving away.
Back it up. It's funny.
Do they end up realizing that they can be comfortable, or has there been anyone who just keeps going?
Oh man, yeah, it's like people are like, whoa. And the other thing which always happens is, I'd say, come have a seat, and the stool's there. I don't know why everybody has a tendency to like pick up the stool and put it back down again. I can't explain that one. It's such a phenomena. Like you pick up the stool and they move it back a bit, and then they sit back down. So sometimes I put it a little forward, so I don't. You see, what I really don't want to do with anyone is like make them think that they're doing anything wrong, right? So as soon as I say if they pick up the stool, say, oh, don't do that. It's like, oh, there's a don't. That's a negative. So I never ever want to say, I never want them to think anybody I'm photographing to think that they're doing something wrong. If there's anything wrong, it's my fault, and I can fix it because you're perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you have to, I definitely have that attitude. So, you know, sometimes I move the still a little bit forward and pre-planned, you know, but I think people are okay with it.
Yeah.
I think mostly. Oh, you're awfully close. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And get closer, you know.
I think this is a good segue into this next segment, which we call Unframed, where we take a look behind some of the photos that you've created.
None of my pictures have ever been framed.
Perfect. So we're already at a great starting point.
We don't frame anything.
But what I want to do here is we have an image up on the screen, and I just want to describe it for our audio listeners as well here. We have a beautiful portrait here of Martin Scorsese, shot in the style that Mark is known for. Mark, could you walk us through this image? Maybe if there's a story behind it, anything like that, we'd love to learn more.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about two things that are very honest here and terrible.
Okay.
So I've always loved ring lights. Yeah. There was one time, the first time I kind of realized I wanted to use a ring light was I was shooting some hip hop people way back in the day. Snoop was one of them, and we were in a studio, and I was basically so high from contact high that I just didn't even know where I was anymore. And I'm not somebody who I'd love to smoke weed, but it makes me paranoid. I don't know if you can run all that. Oh, weed's legal, you can. Yeah. So anyway, I go into the bathroom to splash some cold water in my face. There's like this 18-inch mirror with a fluorescent tube behind it bouncing off the white wall and coming back. And I'm standing in the mirror looking at myself, right? I've got these big circles in my eyes. I'm like, whoa, that's cool. So I buy a couple of LED fluorescent tubes, right? Because they weren't packaged as ring lights. I mean, the ring light at that point was a flash. Yeah. And the flash was really small and made a little circle in your eyes. And I didn't like this because I'd seen the light with the big circle, as you can maybe see on that photo. And I black wrapped the back of these things and got a little thing and made a little funky rig to sit in front of the camera. And that's why I started to use this ring light. And I loved it. And it really got reinforced because I moved into a studio with some friends. Great space in Chinatown. They were an ad agency, and there was a load of space. And I moved in there, and it was a 5-floor walk up.
Okay. A lot of stairs.
So all of a sudden, when I was going out to shoot, there was no more like C-stands and this, because nobody wanted to carry this stuff up and down. Some photo assistants weren't working for me because, like, no, I'm not going to Mark's. I don't want that, Joe. It's like 5-floor walk-ups. So I was like, no, it's just a ring light. So, you know, through pure laziness, I started to use it more and more. So that's where the ring light came from. And then as I talked about, you know, this is, I think, you know, this is with the S, and you can see that fall off between the eyes and the ears, and how close you have to be to get that. And Scorsese, I'd photographed him before. That's a story I've told 100 times, so if you've heard it, I'm sorry. But Scorsese's a very interesting character. And I'm, you know, massive fan of his movies, as so many of us are. But the first time I photographed him, I'll make this short. The first time I photographed him, the agent, everybody was like, you know, Marty will give you 5 minutes. You got 5 minutes with Marty. You know, 5 minutes. That's all he does. 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, 5 minutes is fine. Then Obama in 4. I can do Marty in 5. You know, get to we're setting up in some hotel junket, and, you know, like everybody's a publicist. He'll be there in 20 minutes, and he's going to give you 5 minutes. Be ready. 5 minutes for Marty. 5 minutes. Guy comes in to put some water. He goes, you know, Marty will only give you 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I know, it's 5 minutes, right? So, you know, I'm set up. I know that's not the shot, but I know the shot I want to take, and I've got, you know, I'm pretty, you know, at this point, after 30 years, if you don't know where, you know, roughly to put your lights, it's a different conversation. I'd be like trying to put your underwear on your feet. You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, that should be a song spot. And he comes in, he sits down, and he puts his hand on the chair, on the edge of the chair, and he puts his hand on his chin, and I'm just a little below, and I take like 20 frames, and I'm tethered so I can see the images. I have nailed this. I've done this. I got it in the first frame. I knew what I wanted. And for some reason, to this day, I'll never know. I said, Mr. Scorsese, I know I've got 5 minutes. I've used 1. Can we talk about your films for the other 4 minutes? And he just laughed big. And he goes, you take as long as you need, kid. And that was like my introduction to Marty. I don't know where that came from. But anyway, this photo, this is even another bizarre situation that happened. He's like, well, we get a call. It's another hotel, another situation. We're all set up. And we get a call that, Mr. Scorsese would like to have some lunch. Is it okay if he comes in half an hour? Well, yeah, of course. So we're sitting there with half an hour, So there's a sound system in the hotel room. And, it's like Sonos or Spotify or whatever. And I put on Scorsese's greatest soundtrack hits, right? And I have it on loud. Yeah. And when I work in hotels like that, I never like to close the door. So I always have the door on that little hook thing. Because, it's weird, like, saying, like, hello, come in. It's like, come in? Hello, come in. It's like, I just want the door to be open so they can just open the door, right? And I'm sitting here. I'm sitting facing into the room. My camera's all set up here. The door is behind me. And there's a few people, I'm assistant makeup artist and whatever, sitting there. And the theme from Mean Streets, it's like that cream track goes and it's on loud. And I see everyone looks around at the door, and I look around and he's just walked in, and I go to say, hey, somebody better turn this down. And before I know it, like, Scorsese's playing air guitar. Like, this guy's playing air guitar. Oh my God, I love this. I love this song. I used this song in one of my movies called Mean Streets. And this is a bit where De Niro gets it in the neck and like that. And he's like a little boy. He's so excited. And he's like air guitar. And he sits down. And we turn it down a little bit, but he wants it loud, and I start taking photos, with the ring light. And the ring light's a pretty quick getter of what you need to get, which is great because, Marty only gives you 5 minutes. And so the Cream song finishes, and then I think the Stones come on, and it's Gimme Shelter. Oh, gimme, it's just a rock away. And he goes, I used this in another one of my movies. I used this, and I said, Mr. Scorsese, in all honesty, we're playing the greatest hits from your theme song. And he goes, yeah, you're a clever young man. You're a clever young man. And he gives me that smile, and I snap the photo.
That's awesome.
At that point, I thought, well, I've just done something quite good.
Nice.
And he sat for another few minutes, and then off he went.
It's amazing.
So that's energy. That photo.
That's amazing. And the energy that you gave him just by playing the music.
Oh my God, it was such a good stuff. I mean, I just it was loud, Jack. It was really loud. Like everybody was saying, Mark, turn it down. Like, nah, leave it. When they complain, we'll turn it down. And then he came in. So that's that picture.
Nice. Let's move on to the next one we have in this set here. So we have another portrait here of Rami Malek, a little bit different from the initial Scorsese shot that we're seeing here.
Yeah, I chose this because it's another light that I like to use. Yeah. It's not quite Rembrandt. It's just, he's got great eyes, Remy.
He does, yeah.
And I just sometimes you take a photo and just things align. Yeah. I call it the photo gods aligning.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you go in there and you're so, you've got great people, you've got the team that you got your A team, you've got your camera that you like, you got great subject coming in, you think your lighting, you got great music on, you're in a great space, and you take a photo, it's just like, I don't know why this isn't working. And sometimes, somebody comes in, just sits, and you've had a nice little, hello, I'm Mark from Scotland to take, and they just give you a look, and the photo gods align, and I just felt that happened there. I just think it's a strong portrait, and I liked it.
It's beautiful.
Kind
of
fun.
I was going to say, any funny story behind it, or was this one of those quick and...
Nah, and that was I just liked the photo, that's why I kind of put that one up.
It's a great photograph.
Yeah.
And then we have one more here as well. If we could switch over to that one here. This one I found interesting because it differs from a lot of your work. So for the audience who's listening, it's a photograph of these incredible long fingers with beautiful nails that are equally as long and gorgeous rings on them in a black and white. And it just caught my eye in the selection that you had sent over.
Oh, I chose this because it is, photographers talk about personal work. I don't really have a lot of personal work, but sometimes I take some photos personally. And I think it was a cue. I just got a cue, and I was at an event or a party, and I was introduced to Cynthia Revo, who's amazing. And I'm not that guy anymore at parties. That I am at parties, but this kind of industry party, there's photographers. I'm not ever going to be that guy that kind of thing. And I noticed her hands. I said, Miss Revo, can I take a picture of your hands? Because I'd got this new camera, and she said, yeah, I'd love that. And she just put them out like that. I took a photo, and it's amazing. What's amazing to me about that picture is I think it says more about her than her face does. Yeah. And if I could do this more, I think I put this in here because this is maybe where I, when you talk about what do you aspire to, or what would you like to do? I'd love to be able to tell a story more without the face and the eyes. And it's something which I'm working on, certainly not achieved it, got maybe 3. And I loved it. And there's just something about the ease of using the little cue that just made that possible. Yeah. And I suppose I put that in number one, to say that I can do other stuff. Yeah. Not very well, but I can.
I think that's done pretty well.
And I just love the fact that it's just so Cynthia Revo without you knowing it's Cynthia Revo, which I think is very cool. So that's why that's there. I just love that picture. I've got a really big print of that in the office.
I'm going to have to come see it.
Somebody, it doesn't actually belong to me, and I keep not giving it away because I just really like it on the wall. It's like it was 60 by 40.
Oh, it's
really cool.
Print.
Really cool print.
I have one more segment for you that I'd love to do, and this is called our quick fire segment.
Yeah, sir.
So it'll be quick questions, first thing that pops into your head.
Sheep.
Perfect. I was thinking that too. I don't know how.
That's good.
Who was the most interesting person you photographed?
I listen.
Most interesting to you.
Okay. Arthur Miller, the playwright.
Interesting. Okay. If your camera could talk, what would it say about you?
Can you learn some functions, Mark? Can you please just learn where things are in the menu? Because we spend a lot of time in that menu, Mark.
Oh my God. What is one thing in your kit you can't live without?
Sorry, I'm thinking of something. What can I not live without? That's interesting. Light meter.
Light meter. Perfect. What would you be doing if you weren't a photographer?
Maybe the same thing I'm doing when I'm a photographer. I think I would be some kind of, I would be in like a business where I was people facing. I don't know. Or maybe a psychologist, I think. I think I'd like to be can I be a psychologist next?
You still could, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go for being a psychologist. I think I love people. I love talking to people.
Hey, I could be a trial run for you.
Right.
Yeah. And then my final question for you today. It's one of my favorite ones to ask our guests. But if you could speak to yourself, your younger self at any age, what would you say?
I don't know. Work harder or buy Amazon stock. There's just, there's just, as I say about that story with doing stuff for the face or working with Nick or other stuff, or that sometimes, I suppose in my younger life, being the guy with the camera was more important than the image. I suppose I genuinely would like to have been more interested in the image at a younger age. I certainly am now, I think, sometimes. But then I think, Yeah, I think just being more focused on the image. I would say that to myself now as well.
And then as we're wrapping up, would also love to just give you an opportunity to shout out any up and coming new artists that you admire.
New artists.
Yeah.
Photographer artists.
Photographer,
No
any
idea.
artist.
I'm going to give a shout out to a young man called Alexander Boyce, who is a magician.
Yeah.
And he is phenomenal. Check out Alexander Boyce.
Is it YouTube, Instagram, anywhere?
I don't know, anywhere. Or go see him live in New York.
Go see him live in New York. I'm going to make that a date. Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to get to sit with you and have this chat.
I'm always so humbled by these things, Jack. You know, it's so funny. It's like, I think the story that sums it all up is I went to photograph Obama in the White House. And I'm not going to go into the story. You need another episode for that. But I get home, just having come from Washington, being an immigrant, invited to the White House to make a portrait of a sitting president. And I go into the house, I open the door, my wife, God bless her, and I love her dearly, just goes, "You said you would unload the dishwasher, and you didn't unload the dishwasher, and I had to do it." Like, "Oh, sorry, darling, let me go do that now." And I think, thank God that I have people in my life, most people in my life that I'm close to, that are, you know, just like that. And I think that's really important to keep your head in the right place.
Well, you definitely do. Thank you again, Mark. I really appreciate it. Awesome. I'll give you a handshake. Wonderful.